Here's another little bit of my religion. Let me try to get this down. I find that I just keep just resuscitating like the worldview and the religious idea that I had 20 years ago. as I as my frequency comes up, it's like, oh yeah, I knew this a long time ago. So this is about embodiment and incarnation. This is what Christ is about. um, I was watching this video about Al Cool because I just talked about it, and they're saying that like when if you die with the alcohol addiction in you, then it like your spirit takes that craving. When you die, you don't just it's not just like a severance. It's like all the load, the karmic load on you from your actions and all of the cravings that you haven't gotten over, all the addictions, all of the lusts and passions that you've been involved in, all of your like psychological complexes, all this stuff that's like living in you. You have to unfold all that and walk through it, and a lot of it is like you're still trapped in it. And so that's going to determine like what kind of plane your spirit is able to enter, right? This is where talk about the seven heavens and the seven hells in like literally every religion. But I don't know what that exactly is or what the format is. I just know there's some kind of spectrum, and your spirit can go, various places depending on like the load you have to get through, which is what the toll houses represent. That's what the toll houses are. You're going through each one of your little bits of unresolved shit. And these are things that are accumulated in the body. It was like memory in the form of addictions and indulgences and suppressed emotions, unresolved inner conflicts, that kind of stuff. But anyways, the point is, so this video is saying, like if you die with that alcohol addiction, you take that craving with you, and then because alcohol is really lowers your frequency. It's very dense, it's very three-dimensional. It's very like ties you to the dense layer of reality. So it can keep your spirit trapped in that kind of really low, dense place. And so a lot of spirits, are roaming, or they're kind of stuck on the earth. They're roaming around like hungry ghost spirits. And they can't actually drink alcohol. The only thing they can do is go gravitate toward people who are indulging, right? Because if somebody who's alive is drinking alcohol, the consequences of that is like after you get your little temporary whoosh, it drops you way down into like a really low frequency state where you're really open and susceptible for dark spirits to come in. And a lot of those are those spirits of dead people who like brought the alcohol addiction with them, and the only way they can satisfy it is to gravitate toward you and get in you and try to enjoy the alcohol that way. And then they also drive you, and then also all these other dark spirits who want to act out their darkness, like like sexual darkness, violence, all this kind of stuff. Once your spirit is dropped, they can come into you, and then this is why people get drunk and then they do horrible shit. Because like you drop your frequency so low, you open up yourself, and all these spirits who are still loaded up with the darkness from their life, and they're trapped in the lower register, they come into you, and now they can act out and try to get their fix. So the point of this is that about life and embodied life and being alive in the flesh and blood. The whole point of it is that, like, if you die with the alcohol addiction, it's very difficult for you to move out of it or progress. Once you're outside the body, it's like really hard It's like social mobility. It's like economic mobility. It's like if you're born into, if you're a peasant in 12th century France, it's really hard for you to move your class. But if you're an American in 2025, it's like relatively easy. So it's kind of like that with embodied life. Like once you're in the spirit world, once you're out of the body, you're kind of like there, and you might be in that situation for 1,000 years or whatever, however time works in the spirit world. Who the fuck knows? But like the point is, like, you don't want that. You're really susceptible, and then you're back at the mercy of all the principalities and powers and spirits that rule the spirit world. you know But when you're incarnate and you've got the flesh and blood body, no spirit has authority over you. You understand? This is what Christ means. This is the meaning of it. That Christ has trampled all the things underfoot. The incarnate flesh and blood, which is the image of the Creator, is like suddenly now dark spirits can influence you, they can tempt you, but you have total free will as long as you're in the body. As long as you're in the body, like, you can change, you can say no. You're not obligated, you're not under any authority. Like, you're directly under the authority, the kingship of the king, because you're like the flesh and blood image of it. This is the meaning of Christ. This is what it's about. People don't understand this. A lot of people talk about Jesus or go to church or whatever, but like what I'm talking about, like, that doesn't enter into like how they're actually conceiving of it. Your flesh and blood is Christ's flesh and blood. This is the meaning of the Eucharist, right? It's not about like, it's just Jesus, 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 Jesus. It's kind of about you. And just, Jesus is the image of like flesh and blood incarnate God, right? And he was just trying to explain, like, listen, you're basically, you have total spiritual authority as long as you're alive and incarnate. You can say no. It's just people aren't saying no. People are like, oh sure, I'll take the alcohol spirit, or sure, let me indulge in lust or whatever. Christ is basically saying, like, stop it. If you would stop all this, you'd see that like you are totally fine, and you can, in this lifetime, exercise your free will to conform yourself back to like the pure image of the Creator, and then when you die, you're in the kingdom. Right? You've got your crown. You don't have to worry about, you can come into this life, you can come into an incarnate flesh and blood human life from a super low spiritual dungeon, and you can leave it with a crown at the highest level of the kingdom of heaven. Like, you can traverse the whole ladder when you're incarnate. But just people aren't doing it, because they make excuses, and they're like, well, and all that Christ was saying, like, no, you don't get it. Like, you need to knock it off. There's nothing. People make excuses because, like, oh, well, it's human nature. No. That's just an excuse. Human nature. There's nothing wrong with human nature. That's what Christ was showing as an example. He's like, look. There's nothing. He's like, I've got the whole human nature. I've got the human mind, the human body, the human this, the human that, and I'm not trapped in all this shit, and I'm going right back to heaven, straight up. To be one with the Father. So, and this is why in Buddhism they talk about the human life being like the precious, like, what do they call it? The precious lifetime. Like, you could go through all these cycles of birth and rebirth as a turtle, or as a bacteria, or as some kind of spiritual thing, or some kind of whatever, But this one right here, being flesh and blood human, this is like the most precious one, because you have no all your contracts that you were involved in, or whatever powers were ruling you before, like you can overcome all of it. you know you're in time. As long as you're in time, there's movement possible, and no spirit has authority over you. And you have the seed of the Creator in your heart that like will tell you what's good and what's bad. It's almost like too good to be true. It's like a cakewalk, but people don't do it because they just they just love bad things too much. It's because of making excuses. It's the denial of free will. And this is what's so toxic about the denial of free will. This is why I think Calvinism is evil. They talk about Jesus all day long, but they don't understand anything of what I just said. And most people don't. They understand it to the point of like, well, I know I shouldn't do bad things. But people don't take seriously like the horrible places your spirit can go after you leave this body. And it's determined by like what you've allowed to make a home in you, which is your negative emotions, anything like low frequency negative emotions, addictions, wrong action that you're taking consequences for. And you don't want that. You don't want to go to those places. You may have come from those places. You don't want to go back there. And you may have been a nice turtle or something. That'd be better than going to some, the fifth circle of hell or whatever. Or just being trapped in the... Even to use that imagery gets too concrete for people. Just, you don't want to be trapped in a heavy, dense, dark, energetic plane of confusion and ignorance and suffering, and you're a spirit, so there's nothing you can do. You're just there. You're going to live there for however many millennia it takes for something. I don't know how it works. Maybe some deva comes along and gives you a hand, or finally somebody who's back on earth says the right prayer for you or something. I don't know how it works, but I do know generally what I'm saying is how it works. So you got to take advantage of being flesh and blood in this life, and put and ascend above all spiritual practices is just raising the frequency, overcoming the passions, overcoming negative emotions, overcoming internal conflicts and unresolved emotional bullshit. So you're up in the open, spacious, freedom, love bandwidth, so that when you die and you leave the body, you can go in there.